So we have about 15 minutes left. What we will now do is we're going to go on a trip around Africa. So we have 3 people here, 2 or 3, I think. Shall we start? And I'm going to be very strict because I said 5 minutes, and I also sort of gave you an outline of what you need to address, right? So we've got Emmanuel, then we've got Martins, and then we've got Nokwanda. So let's start with Martins, and then Emmanuel, then Nokwanda.
Okay. My name is Martin Semeje. I am a professor of pharmacy and work with the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development, where I head research and development. Okay, so it's difficult to have the data on how many traditional healers and pharmacists versus doctors once you export, and how formalized is the industry. In Nigeria right now, it's difficult to talk about how formalized the herbal industry is. I'm also very sure that that is not too different in all other African countries. But we all know, and I would like to respond to this by saying that we all know that it's already established by about 80% of the world population is dependent on traditional medicines, especially herbal products for as a primary healthcare needs. So Africans, including government, researchers, entrepreneurs, therefore, we need to wake up in order to address that question that you have raised there that is in red. When I hear of complaints, for me, those complaints are actually due to laziness, because already the World Health Organization has come up with measures that should ensure regulation, establishment, and maintenance of suitable standards. So it is in the hands of Africans to ensure that, that we have this in place. Nigeria has one of the most effective regulation of herbal medicines in the world in terms of competence and strictness of herbal medicines before your herbal medicines go out for consumer use in Nigeria by the National Agency for Food and Drug and Development Control, NAFDAC. We do have, if you look at the WHO and NAFDAC guideline of the summary of it is that the pharmaceutical safety and efficacy of health, there are things that must be done in terms of preclinical efficacy and then clinical efficacy in terms of clinical trials. So the standardization that must be done, you must provide qualitative and quantitative evidence to what you are producing before NAFDAC will give you registration. Nigeria is home to more than 5,000 higher plant species. It's recorded. We already have them. We know why we have that kind of a good biodiversity. Some very popular among these include these 9 that you can see on my slide. At the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development, it's a public institution, and we are known for what we do, especially in the area of herbal medicines. So to the extent that even with our R&D in herbal medicines, we have ISO certification for 17025 and quality management systems. This is a pictorial presentation of our staff interacting with a traditional medical practitioner. And then you see this is how we get our information. And at the end of it all, we come up with products. We have at least 25 products, but 2 have gone through full clinical trials. The most popular, which many know across the world, including some developed countries, is Neprisan for sickle cell, which is marketed today as Niclovis by May and Baker, a big pharma industry in Nigeria. So that is the kind of thing that happens currently in Nigeria. We have products for malaria, for different kind of antibacterial infections, fungal infections, and recently COVID-19. And then that is running through Nigeria. I got my 5 minutes.
You're 35, yeah. Oh, it's like, but you know what? It's so fascinating, right? So, but it's in a different webinar. So we would like you to come back, and we will give you more time, because there are so many threads that you put in there. You know, the issue around regulation is something else. And then this issue around the research that you're doing and the products that you've produced. So, I mean, it's amazing. And unfortunately, because we just had this 5-minute trip, maybe we'll come back to Nigeria. Would like to come back to Nigeria for longer. So for possibly next month, I will schedule you for a longer, you know, yeah. But, and I'm sure people would then want to ask questions, right? And you are one of our authors. So also in future, you will come and tell us about the monograph that you're developing. But thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. Yeah. Right. Can we go to DRC Congo? Emmanuel.
All right.
Okay.
I'm Emmanuel. As Prof already introduced me as candidate. So I'm going just to talk a little bit or answer the first question that has been asked to come up with regard to DRC. I'm a PhD candidate at Tran University of Technology. Yeah, actually Congo is a big country that you know. It's about 2,345,000 square kilometers with over 90 million of people. This country is the fast growing population of 2.7 million per year, with a rate of fertility of 5.9 children per woman. And 85% of the people rely on traditional medicine. The first question was to find out how many traditional health practitioners versus pharmacists and doctors. So we have 37,681 registered traditional health practitioners in 2009. This is the record of 2019, versus 3,150 registered pharmacists versus 20,725 medical doctors. As you can see, that only 5 pharmacies are actually available for 570,000 people. So the next question was to find out about how mostly commonly used plant products in the market, in the Congolese market. So more than 57 plant products are found in the Congolese market to 3 different elements. And since COVID started, we have 3 more plant products that are available in the market, which is RT-COVID, Mana-COVID, and Dose-BC. And the inventors of this product just passed on this year in March. So the following question was to find out about the mostly used formalized products sourced locally and imported. So as I mentioned earlier on my previous slide, that apart the 3 products against COVID-19, we have in the market Manalaria, Santitia, Zinginalis, Diadosmilis, Manadias, Mayamycin. Those are products produced locally, and the last column represents the mostly imported products that are used in the country against malaria, those antibiotics, those anti-emetics, anti-tubercular, and anti-hepatitis drugs. So the following question was to find how many formal herbal manufacturing industry in the country. Unfortunately, there's no data available for those herbal manufacturing companies, but at the academic level, as I mentioned in the previous slide, that There are some researchers who are busy manufacturing products based on plants in a small scale. So what are the opportunities and challenges for investors in DRC Congo? As you know that DRC continues to be affected by different outbreak of diseases such as malaria, polio, TB, and Ebola, but the health sector receives the little budget supporting from the government, which gives more opportunity for a private sector to come and invest because of the high demand of pharmaceutical products from 90 million population, as well as DRC found in the center of Africa has 9 neighboring countries where the investors can have opportunity of touching other countries for businesses, but also challenges such as growing number of illegal and uncontrolled pharmaceutical businesses, where we found different pharmaceutical companies, so-called pharmaceutical companies from Indians. They're actually wholesalers, which are not, some of them, they are not actually registered with the council or different stakeholders, but they are there. We also found the circulation of counterfeit and substandard medicine in the country. We also found an unreliable information system, a shortage of trained and qualified personnel. All right. Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So the reason why we do these snapshots is really because we are trying to grow an industry, and you can already see the opportunities there. But then what I find interesting about the Congo and in most African countries is that actually we have more traditional healers than we have conventionally trained healthcare professionals. But if you add that up, you have double the number of healthcare workers in the country. So part of what we ought to do is to think about how do we mainstream traditional healers into the conventional and statutory healthcare sector. Right now, we are in need of vaccinators. Why aren't we using traditional healers? So this really should go beyond just, okay, we're just doing plants here. We should really look at plants as a gateway to healthcare for Africans. Thank you. Right, next and not least, Professor Nokwanda, over to you.
Hi, David and everybody else. I'm going to try and share my screen and also stick to the time span that we've been given here. So South Africa is really regarded as a place that has a high level of biodiversity, and this presents many opportunities to mine this botanical gold that's actually available here. And just to give you an idea of what we mean by a botanical gold mine, there are 30,000 vascular plant species in South Africa. It holds 10% of all global biodiversity. And because we have such an amalgamation of different cultures and people and extensive biocultural diversity and exploration of medicinal plants, this leads to a very diverse and unique ethnopharmacopoeia, especially in places like the Cape Floristic region, which has a concentration of medicinal plants. So in South Africa, you have both an informal trade and a formal trade of medicinal plants. And that informal trade has got over 27 million consumers with more than 250,000 traditional healers. And I think the statistics might actually be an underestimation, especially in this current time. At the same time, you have a growing and burgeoning phytopharmaceutics industry with many products that are familiar to some of us, such as rooibos, which is being harvested here, and then Pelargonium pseudoides. And in the United States, for example, Pelargonium pseudoides is actually sold as Umka cold care. So in terms of traditional healers with regards to the general population versus medical doctors, there are about 1 in traditional healer per 500 persons. And this is definitely skewed when you look at those doctors that have actually been trained in terms of a formalized training with regards to, getting a degree at university. There are different kinds of healers throughout the whole entire country. Here in the Western Cape, which is where I am on the southern tip, we have a group of Bosi doctors who are actually mainly male and who base their traditional medicines on the Khoisan practices. And in KwaZulu-Natal, which is another part of South Africa, you have a different set of healers and traders, and often a larger population of females that actually participate in this informal trade. So what are the top plants that are used in South Africa for medicinal purposes that are commercialized? There's some big ones here. I think it's like the big five that are put down: Aspalathus linearis, rooibos, cyclopia, honeybush, Pelargonium pseudoides, and other Pelargonium species. And Sciletium, we heard quite a lot about that one today. Habacophytum procumbens, which would be devil's claw. But there are about 5,000 or more species that are utilized in the informal trade as part of the indigenous knowledge systems that are practiced in the country, and about only 35 commercialized plant species, and where extensive work has actually been focused. I think in terms of research activities, it's quite a challenge to have a lot of plants, because we have a tendency to go shallow in terms of bioactivity and pharmacology and not really get deep. For example, we still know very little about the pathways that actually control mesembrine production, because the last time that we looked at were in the 1970s. We also don't have a lot of information with regards to the therapeutics that we actually have here. We have a partial understanding of what the extracts of even the commercialized plants, and those plants that are not commercialized, we have very little information in terms of their metabolites. We are also challenged with a changing environment, so there are opportunities there to better understand the effect of climate change on medicinal plants, which will actually have a health security impact. So here are some of the challenges that I've outlined from a scientific point of view. We don't really do much genomics. We don't do any transcriptomics. We do some metabolomics and a little bit of proteomics. But again, I think there are many opportunities in better understanding quality and safety aspects related to many plants that are used, whether they be commercialized or not commercialized. We've got to make better efforts in terms of clinical trials. And I think some of these key features have actually been highlighted here, because there's potential to discover new drugs from plants that haven't been that well studied. And I think there's opportunities to grow the natural products industry in South Africa. And with that, I want to end off by emphasizing that by utilizing a diversity of scientific tools, we will better be able to mine information that is associated with this glorious medicinal flora that we have here. And this will allow us to be able to understand the plants from an ecological perspective right to the cellular level. And this has got very significant potential to add a new value to IKS, and at the same time actually assist in innovation and driving the phytopharmaceutics agenda and the bioeconomy of South Africa. And I hope that I've stuck to time, David. I'm happy to take them.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, so great perspective on the South African landscape. So at least now you know how this goes. So in future, if we say trip around Africa, 5 minutes, yeah, it'll be 5 minutes. But very interesting. So you're forgiven, all of you. In fact, even my plenary speakers were so excited that they went over time. So yeah, and yeah, but thank you very much. So with that, I think we will end this meeting.